not walking enough, getting so busy with work. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, we're gonna talk about some good stuff today. We're gonna pick up off where we left yesterday. Many of you, including some people who work for me, said DML yesterday was the best walk and talk in a long time. And it was about immigration, and I was sitting and talking because there's so many different things floating around right now about what's taking place with all these executive orders and what's not taking place. People stepping up and saying, yeah, we support it. People stepping up and saying, good luck, Mr. Trump, we're going to defy you. And I have always known this was going to happen. If somebody like Trump or Lynch, who was going to do this sort of crackdown on immigration, I always knew that there was going to be this mini war in this country. I had one guy on here yesterday because, I always read your comments. I try to make sure again, I apologize for the wind. Nothing I can do about it for the next couple of minutes. But, I always read your comments, try to stay on top of what's taking place with you folks, what your feedback is, whether it's on the app or what it is I'm saying or how you're feeling about something. Some guy said, really wish you'd stop tooting your horn. You could change the channel. There's a difference between being conceited and cocky and being confident and right. And, there's a lot of work that goes into being correct. And so a lot of study, a lot of risk, a lot of money, a lot of passion that goes into being correct. And so I'm proud of being correct on these things, not because it makes me feel a little better about myself, but because it makes me feel as if I realize that my work and the way that I go about my work with my team is done correctly. And it comes out to be that you can rely on when you get from DML and Team DML. It's very important to me. It should be important to you. Just had a conversation this morning with Scarlett, and I was explaining to her that the number one thing about the DML brand is that, and I don't mean DML in terms of me personally, I mean the brand in general, is the fact that when people get something, they can trust it. They may not always agree with it, but they can trust it. And so this guy says, I wish you'd stop tooting your own horn about how you're always right. You know what? When I'm wrong, I will. I'll tell you how I was wrong, how I guess that went wrong. But I have always said, since I got into the immigration game years ago, that was my first entry into all this stuff, it was immigration. I was like, holy cow, I didn't realize how big this immigration problem was. But when you get into it and you live it and you feel it and you see it firsthand, you understand that not only is it bigger than anybody ever described, but in my case, I believe it was the number one problem facing America because it touched so many different components. It touched your healthcare, it touched your hospitals, it touched your schools, it touches your culture, it touches crime, it touches national security, it touches jobs. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I've always said, if we stripped away the amount of money that we're investing into the lives, crimes, and jobs of illegal aliens, we would be able to take better care of our own, being that veterans, being it single parents, programs that they need, or whatever it may be. And I've always made this argument. That said, I've also made the argument that if there was ever any president to take the office of the United States, and that president said, we're going to start deporting people, we're going to start defunding sanctuary cities, we're going to start stopping people at the border and turning them around and sending them back home the way they should be, we're not going to do capture and release, you start doing all that stuff, they're not going to believe you at first. But when you start doing it, not only are you going to get the support of the American people by and large, but you are going to start a war. Because, first of all, there are far many more illegal aliens in this country than anybody ever wants to admit. And I've always used this statistic. Over the course of time, you have seen your schools, your communities, all increase in terms of how it is that they reach out to the Spanish-speaking population. Forms are printed in English and Spanish. You make a phone call to almost any public utility. You make a phone call to any school. You make a phone call almost anywhere, and it's press 1 for English and 2 for Spanish. And in some cities, I told you, like Miami and LA, it has actually become where English is now the secondary language to Spanish, the primary. So, you start putting all those things into case, and you see your numbers have been increasing. But at the same time, the media and DC have continued to stick on this 11 million, 12 million number. And it's just like, hey, wait a second. How can it be that everything else is going up, but you guys are keeping this number at the same thing? And they want to. They want to disguise it. They want to hide it. If you go back to 1986, Ronald Reagan gave amnesty, and he gave it to 1 million people, although he thought he was going to give it to 1 million people. It turned out to be nearly 4 million people. So that's how distorted the actual numbers and research reports were back in 86 with Reagan. So if you take a look at where we are today with this 11, 12 million number, and you extrapolate that using the same formula back in 86, we're looking at more like 44 million illegal aliens. And that sounds about right to me. I mean, how can you have 11 million illegal aliens in the country when people will tell you that in California alone, you've got 2 million? First of all, that number in California is wrong. You've got more than 2 million. But even if it was 2 million, you're saying that the rest of the country, the rest of the 49 states, only have 9 million illegals? Please. You're insulting us. We're living our lives here, and we're seeing what's taking place, okay? So anyway, when you take a look at the 40 million, 30 million, I don't care what number you use, just as long as it ain't 11. When you look at the 30 million, 40 million illegal aliens in this country, you know that many of them are going to put up a stink. Many of them are going to put up a fight. You've got places like the ACLU and all these liberal-leaning, progressive-thinking groups and associations who do everything they possibly can to try to keep illegal aliens in place. And this includes the Chamber of Commerce, okay, who wants this illegal labor. So when you look at that, and then you look at the passion and emotion that comes with the fact of where they'll tell you that you're breaking up families and all this other different stuff, there are going to be fights. I mean, there are going to be a lot of fights. And it's not until he'll start actually having to deport people, until he actually cracks down on defunding these sanctuary cities, that you're going to see the fights ensue. I mean, when I say fights, I'm talking about physical stuff. I'm talking about burning down buildings. And don't think I'm crazy on this one. Okay. For those of you who have been with me for a long time, somebody needs to explain to me why it is on January 27th, I'm wearing everything I possibly can to keep warm, and there's a leaf blower. The leaf blower. What leaves are we blowing? What leaves are we blowing? I should ask this guy. Yeah, so he knows how to say leaf in America. Why are we still blowing leaves? Anybody can tell me that, right? Look, blowing leaves in January. Okay, do a good job. Anything to keep these guys working. Yeah, see, like this homeowner here, he would actually be bugging out. He's gonna say, who's gonna cut my lawn? Who's gonna blow my leaves in January if you deport all these people? Yeah, okay. What about giving the job to an American? And maybe we'll figure out how to blow your leaves in November instead of having to do it in January. Anyway, going back, if you're a newbie, I have this thing with leaf blowers. I don't understand why it is that we have to blow leaves in December and January. I don't know. Anyway, little things in life, we all have them. We all have our little ticks. That's mine. Anyway, if that's the worst thing that makes me who I am, is that the worst thing about me? I'm like, okay. All right, so going back. So yes, so don't think I'm crazy when I say that there will be physical wars going on, which I don't like. I hate. I don't want anybody to do that sort of thing. But look at what we've just seen take place around the country, specifically, too, if you look in Washington, D.C., with the inauguration of President Trump. I mean, these people are willing to smash in windows, hurt people, and light things on fire for the sake of, arguing back against what it is that Donald Trump stands for, which basically is the rule of law. They don't like the rule of law. And so when you start doing this kind of stuff, enforcing the I have something in my sneaker, sorry. When you start enforcing, damn it, stepping on something like a needle. It's killing me. I can't continue. Hold on. Actually taking off. Here we go. DML shoes. You don't see that on Fox News. Yeah, I had something in my shoe. I'm sorry, but it is killing me. Yep. This is like the equivalent of being on set and one of the lights or the cameras go out. In my case, it's my sneaker. I got some kind of thing, probably the leaf blower, blew a needle, and now the needle's at the bottom of my shoe. It's still there. It's hurting me like a son of a gun. I may actually have to sit. Oh, it's killing me. All right, anyway, I'll get through it. Me and Mary right now are watching Band of Brothers, watching these guys go what they're going through. I'm going to complain about a little needle. These guys will get walking around the snow without socks. Anyhow, somebody's got a flat tire here. Yeah, appears to be. Or maybe it's a fan of the show and they're stopping. I have no idea what they're stopping. But anyhow, let's go back. So yes, I foresee that there's going to be an incredible amount of fighting going on here in the country. And of course, the liberal media is going to grab every single last shot they can of some person from Central America or Mexico crying their little eyes out that they have to go back home because they broke the law. And, you know, tough. If you're going to break the law and you're going to come here because you want to make more money and send it home, well, eventually that party's going to end. Every good party comes to an end, man. Sooner or later, the keg runs empty. Sooner or later, there's no more cake to eat. Sooner or later, the music stops playing. And Donald Trump is coming in and he's saying, look, you've had yourself a good run and now it's over. As for you, Mr. Sanctuary City, I'm going to pull your federal funding. Now, what has happened because of this? And this is what I'm talking about, the little war that will ensue. And this is the beginning of the war. You can see the breaks in the foundation. We got Miami-Dade County, which, let me tell you something, is inundated with illegal aliens. Inundated. Says, hey, listen, we're not going to do the whole sanctuary city thing anymore. You know, we're going to stop acting like a sanctuary city. We're going to crack down. Thank you very much, Mr. Trump. Now, think about how important it is. I just told you minutes ago about how it is that Miami, number one language, Spanish. Okay? So, maybe the good people of Miami-Dade County, who I have met in making my films, if you watched They Come to America, think about it, because a lot of you I know just got the films and you're watching them. They Come to America, I go to a job fair in Florida, down in Miami-Dade County, and you got people of all ages saying, I cannot get a job because I do not speak Spanish. How insane is that? How literally insane is it that a person in America who has put themselves through school, who has trained themselves in whatever industry, and look, this wasn't people saying, I can't get a job with a leaf blower because I don't speak Spanish. These were people in the banking industry saying they couldn't get it. These are people who were trying to get jobs at doctors' offices that saying they couldn't get it. You name the industry, I'll show you the person who can't get a job because they don't speak Spanish. American people can't get jobs because they don't speak Spanish? What is that? What is that? So, hallelujah, amen to the mayor of the city who says, yeah, you know what? I am going to follow suit. I want federal funding for my city and for my constituents. And so therefore, yeah, I'm going to follow what you say, President Trump. Then you get the flip side. You get the mayor from Los Angeles who goes on CNN and says, I don't care what law he puts in place. It's unconstitutional. And I don't believe in it. His executive orders are unconstitutional and un-American. Now, he says that he doesn't care if he loses federal funding. He is not going to allow ICE or his cops to become ICE agents, and he will continue to be a sanctuary. And this is where the wars begin. Okay, first of all, I gotta love the double standard that comes with guys like this liberal mayor, whatever his name is. Where was this guy calling it unconstitutional when President Barack Hussein, wait, For the first time in Walk and Talk, I get to say former president. Where was this guy when former President Barack Hussein Obama put together an executive order for the illegal alien children, dreamers as they call them, for DACA, deferred action, so they wouldn't be deported and could get work permits and licenses and you name it? Where was he complaining about the unconstitutionality of that one? He was nowhere to be found. He was missing in action. So the fact of the matter is this guy is just using selective terminology. It applies when he wants it to, and he doesn't apply it when he doesn't want it to. It's not the way it works, man. It's not the way it works, okay? You can't have this side of the equation because it fits your agenda, but not this side of the equation because it doesn't. Donald J. Trump is basically saying we are going to fulfill what it is that the law says we have to do. And that's what it's going to come down to. So this guy's speaking all tough and all, that he's not going to adhere to these rules. You wait. Mark my word. You wait for when that funding for a place like Los Angeles gets pulled. You wait. Either one, two things will happen. Either A, this guy will cave. Two, he'll be removed from office in his next election. Because there becomes a time when people start saying, yeah, I want this guy here because he does all the hard work. And when people say, wait a second, you just start taking money away from me? That money thing is a powerful tool, man. Because unfortunately, you know, I like to think that love makes the world go round, but money makes the world spin, okay? And so you take away the money, it's a different ballgame. Now that said, I want to pick up where I picked up from yesterday, where I left off yesterday, because the amount of email that I got from people asking me, please, to explain in greater detail what I was talking about with E-Verify and cutting off the magnet. I'm going to go deeper into that so I give you the greatest explanation I possibly can, and so that this way you can absolutely 100% be able to have the most intelligent conversation with your socialist sister and your liberal librarian when you sit there and talk about why it is that we can get these people to go home. And boy, do I hope President Trump, do I hope he does this soon, because he will alleviate so much of the pain that comes along with this war that I'm talking about. Right now, there is existing an E-Verify program. What is E-Verify? E-Verify is like, it's a computer program. It's on the internet. You could go in, you can put in a name, you could put in the information about that person, and basically get back whether or not an individual is permitted to work in the United States legally. It's that simple. Okay, the system's there. If the person does not come up, well, obviously, you've got a problem. If the person comes up and you use the social security number for, let's just say, Johnny Mexico in front of you, and he gives you a social security number, and when you punch that social security number in, it shows back a person who is 97 years old, well, you know it's a stolen social security number. Here's the issue. On the surface, the program sounds like it's a wonderful thing, but it's not mandatory. So it's sort of like, you know, it's like the buffet of top sirloin and shrimp and lobster, but you're not allowed to eat it. It's like, what? Wait, what are you talking about? Why can't I? What? Yeah. In this case, you don't have to eat it. If you don't want it, you don't have to use it. It's not mandatory. So nobody uses the damn thing except for the very honest people who want to make sure that they're not going to hire illegal aliens and they're looking at the person across from them. Okay. Secondly, if you did use it and it came up that Johnny Mexico is using a social security card of the person who's 97 years old, well, then you might say, I can hire this guy. And if they ever come to me, I could just say, oh, I didn't see that thing. But here's the thing. They never come to me. There's no enforcement. There's no enforcement whatsoever. So it is just a waste of just unbelievable programming. It's a waste of data and access that we have. By going after the employers, in which case would require Donald J. Trump, president, that I voted for very proudly, he would have to say it is mandatory that as an employer, you must, before you put somebody on your payroll, use this E-Verify program as an extra layer, or in this case, the most important layer, to ensure that the person sitting across from you is permitted to work here in the United States. Comma. For those of you who move forward with that hire and that person hasn't been approved from E-Verify, you will get a humongous fine. Now, your buddy DML, for those of you who have missed the bells, there you go. Thank you for this unbelievably great day, although it is cold. I appreciate for the opportunity you give me to talk to my friends on the other side. Thank you. So, this is what DML calls fighting fire with fire. Because when you take the employer who hires these people for the sake of saving his company or her company the dollar amount that they would have to otherwise spend on an American worker, when you take the fact that they pay them off the books so this way they don't have to pay all the payroll tax and the insurances and all those other different things, it's basically coming down to one word: greed. And despite what Gordon Gekko said in the movie Wall Street, greed is not good. So, when you fight fire with fire, you basically say to the greedy American employer, okay, you're going to hire these people even though you used E-Verify and showed that Johnny Mexico isn't supposed to be here? Well, we're going to fine you. And that fine is going to exceed the dollar amount, see all these important things, is going to exceed the dollar amount that you otherwise would have saved by hiring Johnny Mexico. And this is a key part. This is a key part that nobody ever speaks about when they talk about fines. And again, to the guy who says, oh, you're always tooting your own horn, it's come from experience, brother. I've been hiring people since I'm 17 years old. You can hire somebody like Johnny Mexico, take the fine, and justify the fine because the fine is basically chalked up as a cost of doing business. The cost of doing business of hiring Johnny Mexico is still a benefit, because if you look at the fine that's imposed versus how much you would have to pay Johnny America, it comes out that you still save money paying the fine and doing the illegal hire. So that's why you got to change all the rules. You got to make E-Verify mandatory, and you have to make it so this way the fine that comes along with violating such a thing exceeds what it would be the savings between Johnny America and Johnny Mexico. You do that, I promise you, everything that this problem is switched overnight. Switched. And that is because if you cut off that money supply, the illegal alien who is here, you are smoking them out. You are sending them back to where they came from because they can no longer afford to live here because they have no source of income whatsoever. And thus, at the same time, you now take Americans, and this is the part you guys were asking me to explain. You now take it so this way Americans get pulled off the unemployment line. You take it so this way the guy or gal who has been struggling to find a job, who has been struggling to find full-time employee. I'm going to turn around and go back the other way because the signal at this other place stinks. Who has been struggling to find full-time employee now sees job openings. Now, how I know and how people in the immigration field know that this will happen is because there have been numerous studies, there have been numerous events that have taken place back mostly in the Bush years, where raids, actual raids were taking place at facilities and job facilities, employers who hire illegals, where the raids were taken and the employees who were there illegally were rounded up and removed. The next day, lines around the block for these jobs. What kind of jobs am I talking about? Working at Johnny's car wash, working at meatpacking facilities. I'm not kidding. You could look it up. You'll find this stuff. You'll see the videos. Americans lining up for the jobs. Yeah, Johnny's car wash is going to have to pay a little bit more money. There's another part that nobody ever talks about. Johnny Car Wash is going to have to pay more money to Johnny America. And he's probably going to pass that extra cost onto you, Johnny Car Owner. But Johnny Car Owner, who used to pay $20 to get his car washed from the illegal alien, now has to pay $25 to get his car washed from Johnny America. That $5 spread, although it may feel like it hurts you in the pocketbook at first, it's not. It's not. And here's why. First of all, aside from the fact that you'll actually be able to communicate with the guy who's washing your car in the English language, and aside from the fact that you'll feel great about your country in the sense that Americans are back to work again, the amount of money that you save, Johnny Carr, in not having to pay the school taxes, in not having to pay the higher healthcare premiums, in not having to pay, you could throw a book at the different things that you don't have to pay anymore. The amount of savings that you get from not having to pay for the life of the illegal alien outweighs that $5. Not only this year, but next year and next year and next year. So that $5 is almost like an investment, where the return on your investment is far more than $5 in the long run. That part of it is never discussed. Ever, never discussed. It's not. Same thing with the border wall. Very important thing to bring up. We ran a poll. I'm not sure what day it was. I think it was 2 days ago. We ran a poll shortly after President Trump, let me give him the respect he deserves. President Trump put out his executive order stating the fact that the beginning steps of a border wall were to be moved forward. And of course, he said that Mexico was going to pay for that wall. Now, we did a follow-up article today about the results of that poll and about something I said in a walk and talk many weeks, maybe months ago. We put out a poll asking you if you had a problem with American taxpayers, you, paying for the wall if we could not get Mexico to indeed pay. We had well over 10,000 people respond to this poll in just 2 days. 84.7% as of this morning said they would be willing to dip into their own pocket and help fund the wall. They don't care who pays for the wall ultimately. They want to have it up. That's it. Bottom line, case closed, story over. Now, The other 7% said, no, I want Mexico to pay for the wall. And then the other 8% that made up the total 100% said, why don't we split the costs of doing the wall? Now, even if you take that 8% and group it with the 7% of people, we still come out with a humongous majority of people saying, I will pay for the wall. I use the same example as I just did about the $5 extra you're gonna have to pay for your car wash in paying for the wall, specifically to you 15%ers. If you have to pay for the wall today, you will get a return on investment that is astronomical, because the one-time hit, and that's what it comes down to, a one-time hit expense of building that wall to help deter the people coming into this country illegally, to deter the drugs coming into this country illegally, to stop the terrorists who are trying to come into this country illegally. The cost savings to you over the course of time is astronomical, almost to the point of where you can't even equate how much money you save, because you think to yourself, well, how do I equate money on people who aren't here? Exactly. The return on investment is huge. And then I ask you this question: what's the price you put on your country's culture being saved? What's the price you put on your country's job market being sparked alive? Igniting. What's the cost you put on preventing another terrorist attack that very well could come through the southern border, because it is extremely porous and you can get more than people through. You could drive trucks through with any sort of missiles or any sort of contraband that you can possibly put together for something that would cause destruction and death on a massive level. What's the cost you put on that? Is there a dollar amount? Is there a dollar amount on the American worker who sits home and feels like crap about himself or herself because they can't find a job because it's given away to some person who doesn't speak the English language and has no right to be here? What's the cost of that? What's the price you put on that? Where in the spreadsheet does that fit? What is the price you put on not having to watch your fellow Americans jump out of an 80-story window in the Twin Towers? Now, of course, the left would come back and tackle me for that statement, saying the people that have come through the border have not caused the sort of terrorism that I am referring to. That nobody from the border has come through and caused a 9/11. That the 9/11s of the world, where people are actually coming and blowing up a building or crashing a plane into the building or doing anything else, that has been either done by an American in Oklahoma or has been done by people who were visa violators. Okay, that's if you define your act of terror as a building blowing up. I define a young woman who is raped by an illegal alien an act of terror. I define a girl named Kate Steinle who's standing on a pier with her daddy, who's shot for no reason because somebody came through this border 7 times and was not sent home. That is an act of terror. You tell me the difference between some member of ISIS who shoots in the back of the head somebody they captured and some illegal alien who steals a gun out of a car and shoots an innocent young girl as she sits on a pier in the back of her head. You tell me what the difference of terror is there, because I don't understand it. Tell me. Tell me how it is that the father and the family of Kate Steinle and every single one of the tens of thousands of people in this country who are affected negatively, either in a car accident or through a murder or through a rape or some sort of theft or criminal action of some kind, isn't the victim of terror. You can't answer me. This is why Jose Diaz-Veled, or whatever the hell his name is, on MSNBC said, yeah, I'll have the lynch guy on, because I was complaining. I was complaining to my agent at the time, Yeah, listen, man, you're not getting me on CNN. You're not getting me on MSNBC. You know, it's always Fox. I want to expand. Get me on these other shows. He's like, Dennis, they're not going to put you on. I said, why? He says, because you'll slaughter them, and they know that there's no way they're ever going to be able to argue against you. I said, come on, man. Are you kidding me? So this Jose Diaz Velez, whatever his name is, a total, hot shot. He's like, oh, I'll put him on. Put me on. I shut him down. And as I was starting to rev up, and I was really starting to turn on the engines, and I was calling him irresponsible for saying that there isn't terror coming through the border, I was ripping him down, but in a professional way, all smiley and stuff. He's like, oh, you know what, Dennis, we're gonna have to cut it at that. Yeah, we're gonna have to go to a commercial break, but we'll definitely have you back. Never invited back. Liberals are such liars. Which leads me into the next topic. Steve Bannon, former head of Breitbart, now one of the top advisors to Donald J. Trump, President Donald J. Trump. He went on I don't know, you could call it a rant if you want. I think it had a little bit of a rantness to it. Or basically he went on a muscle flexing spew of words, if you will. But he was being interviewed by the New York Times. And the New York Times, this was yesterday, the New York Times on the telephone was asking him to comment about something Trump. And Bannon just said, you know what, enough's enough. And he said, you people are done. You're finished. You're done. You missed it. You blew it. You ignored it. You have no credibility. And then he went on to say a very important thing. He said every single member of the mainstream media was signed to be with our campaign during the election period. Not one of them has been fired, despite the fact that all of them went to Twitter and basically championed for Hillary Clinton. I mean, the smelly, stinky, biased, unprofessional, all. Not one person was fired. And he said, and this is why you people are you're the outcasts. You're done. You're not part of anything. You're finished. You're over. You might as well just shut up. I mean, he really kicked these guys where they deserve to be kicked. So Morning Joe, the pretend Republican who really is an undercover Democrat, Joe Scarborough, who is the morning show on MSNBC, he gets on there today and he lambasts Bannon, for saying what he said, telling the media to shut up. How right is that? Wait a second. Why do these lefties always look at the side of the story which basically comes to the untrue? Why does he do that? Why doesn't he say, if you take a look at somebody like Steve Bannon and saying something like that, what would trigger him to say something like that? Well, if he did that, then he would have to actually look at all the different lies and misreportings that went on. But Joe Scarborough doesn't want to do that. Instead, what he wants to do is he wants to play the holier than thou, and he puts Steve Bannon up on the piñata pole so he can whack him and say, yeah, well, you know what? This guy doesn't realize the media always wins. And that's why a guy like Joe Scarborough has absolutely zero credit. I don't know why Donald Trump ever gives him the time of day. I don't understand why Donald Trump would even talk to him or his counterpart, Mika. I don't even know what her name is. I don't know what her name is. I'm bad with names. All I know is the woman who sits next to him every day. Why Trump would even give them the time of day is beyond me. But he does. He recently did a report where he says that he watches them in the morning. Maybe he's just watching them to see what his enemies have to say. And I can understand that. But ultimately, the elitist in Joe Scarborough, a member of DC, the old DC gang, when he was a Republican, okay, if he was a Republican representative in the House, now goes and has his own television show for the most liberal, dishonest, can't find its buttocks with both hands TV network. He goes and he's going to say, Steve Bannon, the media always wins. You moron. And you know I'm not a name caller, but there's some times when things just said that I just say, what is it? What is it? And then it just comes down to, moronic statements. Joey, look at the scoreboard, dude. It says President Trump 1, Hillary Clinton 0, and the game's over, man. The media always wins. The media lost, you knucklehead. The media lost. That's why Donald Trump is the president. You guys tried everything you possibly could. You did lies. You put out baloney stories about this and that. You tried to destroy this man and his family. But he wouldn't take it. And the American people and journalists and media places and people like myself who have a loud enough voice with enough following to say, wait a second. No, man. These days are over. These days are over, man. You're done. You can't lie to these people like that. We're going to tell the truth. And therefore, because Donald Trump has a Twitter and a Facebook, and then he's got people like myself and Hannity who also have followings into the millions championing for him, that false narrative that always used to make the media win actually made it where the media lost. So Joe Scarborough, you need to try to find your buttocks with both hands, because Steve Bannon is completely 150% correct. And this is, you know how I always like to bring things full circle? This is full circle time. Facebook, who has pretty much become one of the biggest companies in the world. Forget about social media platforms. They're one of the most powerful, biggest companies in the world. In one way, they have created their own self-ticking bomb. What do you mean, DML? Well, this is why you see that Facebook is now changing what it is that's going to be in your news trends, in your news, trending news. They are going to feed it to you based on how they want it versus how you want it. You can set your notifications to any single which way you want, but ultimately they are going to give it to you in the way that they want to give it to you. Same applies here today. What do I got? 4,000 people? I guarantee you, I would bet my legs on it, that 3,500 to 3,700 of you are here today. And what were we at some point today? We're almost 5,000. I would bet that 90% of the people who are watching this today have come from one of three measures. Number one, they came from the text alerts. Number two, they came from the app alerts, the app, our DML app alerts. Or number three, they simply came because they come at every day at 11:40. Facebook is not putting us, and when I say us, I mean me. I talk to some of these other guys, they're having the same issues. They're not putting us in the feeds anymore, despite the fact that you're asking for this stuff in the feeds. You delete this, you delete that, you reinstall it again. You click this, you go back, it's unclicked. You go back, you click it again, it's unclicked. Everything is being done to make it so the message is balanced. No, it's not. Everything is being done so this way the message is dictated. And I'm not a conspiracy guy. I can't stand the conspiracy guys. What I am is a realist. I'm a guy who looks at data. I'm a guy who looks at news. I'm a guy who looks at all the different reports that come in, and I make an assessment based on all the information in front of me. That information tells me that they know that they're their own ticking time bomb in terms of their own ideology. They realize that in many cases, they gave us the platform to make it so this way the news from the Washington Post and the Joe Scarboroughs and the ABC News and the Dateline NBCs and all the other different New York Times, they no longer dictated and controlled the narrative. Now it was an even playing field. Because although I may not have the 7 million people watching me in the morning, like Good Morning America does, I have thousands of people who hit the share button, and before you know it, 250,000. So you add me, you add a Hannity, You add any other conservative who's out there who's giving a good message within the sort of similar lines, if you will, that we have been giving on this side, we're an equal plane. Actually, in some cases, we're even beating that. Look at that. They gave Donald Trump the biggest, hugest message board of all time. The man has 20 million Twitters on one account, 14 million people on his Facebook account. He's got millions and millions and millions. They created this platform for him. They didn't even realize it. So now they're trying to slowly but surely figure out ways to take that platform down. This is how it all comes full circle, because they realize the fact that the media no longer dictates the game. The media no longer always wins, and they don't like that. So they want to get back to winning again. And that's the biggest challenge we have. That's why I tell you every single day, you gotta download the app. You gotta download the app. You know, you gotta download the app. I feed it to you every day because I know, just like I knew 3 months ago, there would be a day that we would go from 11,000 down to 5,000. There will be a day when they'll try to go from 5,000 down to 50. There will be a day when I wake up and I'll be told from 5,000 emails that I'm no longer in somebody's newsfeed. Not because they're taking it out on DML purposely. There will be other people who are suffering the same fate. And that is basically what it comes down to. So we have to build our own platforms, and like the apps. And by the way, you get the DML app by going to the iOS App Store or the Play Google Store for your Android, if that's what you have. And you just search Dennis Michael Lynch. It's free. Download it. So anyhow, that's that. Now, for story time, it's actually starting to get warmer. For story time, I'm going to tell you a story, not a funny one. I'm going to tell you a story about an experience I had with Facebook. No joke. All recorded. So, woo! Yeah. So anyhow, oh, thank you, by the way, for the lovely gifts. Let me just stop here for a second. We're still getting gifts from you folks. And my son said to me the other day, he's like, Dad, are you like asking for gifts? No, I'm not. I got this beautiful hat and this beautiful scarf. Some lady, I can't remember her name, we put it up on my daughter's Instagram. My daughter's doing that Instagram thing for me. It's called, well, it's really for her, about me. It's called Instagram.com/DML is my dad. We put the picture up there with the lady's name who sent to us. This lady made a quilt for us. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and sent it to us. You know, Mary's holding it up in the picture. You could see it. I just want to say thank you so much. But and I'm dressed in all your stuff today, and I'm starting to sweat, which is good because I could lose some lbs. Anyway, so you know, I started getting emails from people coming in, slamming me. Why are you deleting the post you're putting up? Deleting the post? What the hell are you talking about? Deleting the post? You know, deleting the post. And I said to myself, well, once in a while we'll double post. You know, like a mistake, maybe I'll post it, and then Anita, who works with me, you know, she'll post something, you know, and not knowing that I posted it, and we kind of cross times on it. Then we'll delete one. I said, delete posts. What the hell am I deleting posts? So I tried to figure it out where I deleted posts, and look at this. It's called, and guy came and did my driveway for me when we were away. Thanks, brother.
Good to see you, DML. Have a good day.
See you later, bud. Colin is a regular watcher, viewer of the show, and we came home from vacation. For those of you who remember, I was on vacation a couple weeks ago. We came home to a snowstorm, and I was like, wait a second, we're gonna have 2 feet of snow, and plus the plow's coming. I'm gonna have 4 feet. We're not gonna be able to get into the house. This guy, dun dun dun, puts on his Superman cape, comes over, does my whole driveway. I say to him, Colin, you know, I can't thank you enough, man. You know, how much money do I owe you? He's nah, you owe me nothing. I'm like, listen, you gotta stop. I cannot, I'm not doing it. I told him, I will never ever call on you again. I will not give you business. I cannot take things for free. That's why, even the gifts, you know what? It's almost like he came on purpose. I was even the gifts, and he's like, I am not going to take your money. So I said, well, then you have to promise me that the next time it snows, you're just going to come and do my driveway and you allow me to pay you? And he said, absolutely. Great guy, salt of the earth, landscaper, who does snow and cuts lawns. I don't know, looks like about my age, right? He's in his mid 40s, upper 40s. Our kids are the same age. Does that look like an American who doesn't want to do the jobs that illegal aliens do? It's how he puts food on the table for his kids. He's cutting lawns, blowing driveways. Come on. That narrative, that false narrative that you media people have been putting. That's why Steve Bannon is telling you to shut the hell up and go away. Look, yeah, there's proof in the pudding, man. Why don't you ever put that guy on TV? Why don't you put that guy on TV instead of putting the illegal alien on there who tells you he just wanted to have a better life and it's not fair and we're doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do? No, you never give the guy like Colton a chance. That's why when I make my movies, they come to America 1, 2, and 3. They watch them at the film festivals like, I'm not putting this out. You can't put that out. This guy, Dennis Michael Lynch, puts an American face on everything. That's no good. Yeah. Well, guess what? Donald J. Trump puts an American face on everything. It's called Americans First, and that's why you guys are done. Finished. It's a matter of time. You could take me out of every feed you want and continue into my story, right? So I'm like, wait a second, why am I getting deleted? This makes no sense whatsoever. So back in those days, when Facebook was a real company, they used to have customer service. So I reach out to the customer service guy, especially the fact that we were spending money on advertising. I call him up. I'm like, hey man, you got to give me a call. So he calls me up. I said, listen, my stuff's getting deleted, man. And people are telling that I'm deleting it like I got something to hide. Can you please explain to me what's going on? And he's like, yeah, and it goes to this whole thing. And he says, while he starts going, well, I should come back and say, he warns me that the call could be recorded for customer service. You know that thing. This call may be recorded to improve customer service. No, this call is recorded because you want to try to protect your ass. Let's be honest. So yours truly says, okay, you're going to record the call? So am I. And so I recorded the call. And I said to him, why is my stuff being deleted? And I don't think it is being deleted by me. And I went down the whole list of reasons why. Why? In addition to having people sending me warning signs that was coming up on their Facebook and saying, do you really want to click this link? It could go to a malicious site. A malicious site? What are you talking about, a malicious site? If I told you the amount of money I have to spend to make sure that our site is protected and done right, malicious site. So I'm sending them this stuff. And I'm like, you know what I think is happening, man? What, Mr. Lynch? I think you're deleting my stuff. I think you are deleting my stuff. Mr. Lynch, I'm going to have to call you back about this. I said, I need you to. He said, okay. So back in the days when they were a real company, you'd get a time, a range. They're going to call from like 12 to 12:30 on Monday. So you got to sit by your phone. So he calls. And of course, we record the phone call again. And he says, Mr. Lynch looked into this. And yes, it was us who deleting the calls. They're deleting the posts. Now, I got this on video. I got the guy saying the whole thing. I'm like, you're deleting these things. Why would you be deleting my stuff? Tells me, when you have 1 billion people on a platform, periodically you come up with glitches. Well, I said to him, wait a second. I don't have 1 billion people coming to my page. You may have 1 billion people going to your website, but I don't got 1 billion people coming to my page. So, where's the glitch? There's no glitch. There's no glitch. I'll give you another one. Some of you may have already heard this story, so I apologize in advance. Back before I actually started making my regular appearances on the Kelly File, I was a regular on the Kelly File, for those of you who don't know. In fact, in her first year, I held the night for the highest ratings ever on the Kelly File. Listen to this one. This is a good story. A little cocky on my behalf, but so be it. If you don't like it, hang up. Megyn Kelly starts her night show, the Kelly File. You remember that old show, right? That one that's gone now? Thank goodness. We've got Tucker. So anyway, first night, it's a Monday. She opens up with first guest is Senator Ted Cruz. And this is when the sequester was taking place, when they had shut down the memorials down in D.C. And Cruz was sort of being blamed by the left and even by the right that this whole sequester was taking place, and the shutdown was all because of Cruz, because he was fighting for certain things about Obamacare. And it turns out that she puts him on as the first guest. He was hot. I mean, this was back when people loved Cruz, and they were calling for him to run for president. So she has Cruz on her first night. Opens up with the whole, what's it like to be the most hated man in America? Right there. There's a side note. Right there with that statement, we should have known Megyn Kelly was a liberal. Right there. She telegraphed it, and we all missed it. So anyway, that night, you would think her ratings were pretty strong. Next night, I'm on the show because I'm down at the sequester getting footage of illegal aliens having parties on what was supposed to be the closed down mall. I'm just going to sit here for the side here. For the closed down mall, right? So I'm down there and I'm filming this stuff. I'm getting unbelievable footage. And so I'm going to be on Megyn's show. And I call all the immigration people who I've done stuff with, Numbers USA, FAIR, you know, and at that time, these guys all had 1 million people on Facebook. There was another page, I can't remember what it was called, but I had like 500, 600,000 people. I said, I'm going to be on, I got unbelievable stuff with immigration, whatever it may be. I'm going to be on the Kelly File. Now, at that point, I'd always been on Fox, but never on Megyn, obviously, it's a new show. And so we had everybody who was going to be tuning in. She puts me on. We knock it out of the ballpark. I talk about Obamacare. I talk about illegal aliens. I'm doing the whole 9 yards. I give the video. In fact, the producer of the Kelly File, this guy named Tom, he's the executive producer of the whole thing, called up my agent and said, anytime that guy has video, anytime that guy wants to be on, we'll put him on. He's got to give us right of first refusal. We'll put him on. That was after the first night. Third night, she has on Senator Rand Paul, more of the same stuff. Now the veterans are getting involved or whatever. The ratings come in for Tuesday night, the night yours truly is on. The ratings were so high for that particular night that the president of MSNBC, Phil something or another, actually made a statement that he believed that the ratings were incorrect, asked Nielsen to do an investigation on those ratings because he couldn't believe how high they were, only to come back and have the Nielsens tell them, nope, it was right. But on the third night, when Senator Paul was the guy, the ratings went back down. So it was Cruz, Lynch, Paul. Okay. So anyway, at that time, I had about 50,000 people follow me on Facebook. But after the Megyn thing, it went up to like 60,000 and 65,000. And I'm climbing. And before you know it, you know, Megyn's telling me, we want you back on, we want you back on. I'm on all the time. Well, no, my numbers are going like this. All of a sudden, one day I wake up. And I go in, and I see a deduction of 5,000 people on my Facebook page. I go from like, let's say 65,000 to all of a sudden 61,000. And it's like squared off number. I'm saying, what the hell did I say? What the hell did I do? What did I do wrong? You know, like right now I'm an all-star. I couldn't do anything wrong. I could have said, ducks fly. And people were like, oh, I love that guy. I could have said anything. Because I was getting all this stuff, I had gotten footage of the veterans getting beat up and all this other, and we were killing it against the mainstream media. I'm losing 5,000 people. So I call Facebook. Hey man, I lost exactly 5,000 likes. How can that be? Oh, well, you know, sometimes people like a page and they decide not to like a page. But I said 5,000 squared off? They decided not to like me after they liked me 2 days ago? What could it possibly be that I would have done? There's nothing I put out comments. There's nothing I could have said like "Go Hillary." I got no bumper sticker like that on my car. I'm not an Obama fan. What could it be? I don't know, Mr. Lynch. Whatever. So it doesn't sit well with me. I call back again, and I say, I'm telling you right now, I need you to look into this because I'm not going to spend any more money with you. And I'm going on Fox News and I'm going to say that you took out 5,000 people from my account. Next day comes back. Mr. Lynch, we apologize. It was an absolute glitch. And the 5,000 people were put back onto my page. So any person, and see, that's not conspiracy theory. That is evidence, that is recorded phone calls, that is right there, proof in the pudding. This is why, you know, when I sit here to you and I say, where are these numbers coming from? It's not coming out of ego. It's not coming out of being spooked. It's not coming out of thinking that somebody is trying to do something or whatever. It's coming out of experience. It's coming out of complete experience. They have actually admitted to me this is what they've done. So I'm assuming if you're still here, you probably already have the app. And I'm gonna say it one more time. I don't make $1 for every time you download the app. I don't get anything other than the pleasure of knowing that we're building our little tiny army here, and that you'll always be with me for as long as you have a cell phone and pay your bill, and they don't take away your stuff. You're fine. You're not going to get these big overages unless you sit there and just, sit on the internet all day long. Okay? So you go to the iOS store, the app store, the little thing on the app, you download the app. On the Android, you do the same thing. Some people are saying, hey, it's asking access to my phone. No, it's not. It's asking for you if you want to do notifications. If you turn the notifications off, half of what it is that we offer you is moot. All right? So you have to keep that on. And if you do it, you'll be happy. If you're not happy, you know what you do? You delete the app. I'll see you later. I still love you. All right? Anyway, I'm going to go home and work because that's all I do, 7 days a week. Son said to me yesterday, Dad, you know you work 7 days a week, right? I know. But sooner or later, that will go down to 6.5. All right? Hey, man, we've got to make America great again. You can't do that sitting on your buttocks. All right, until tomorrow. God bless you. God bless our troops. God bless the United States of America. And God bless hair products.